Once upon a time there was a little dear girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she would not have given to the child once she gave her a little cup of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Riding Hood.
One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here's a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and when you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you may are going walking nicely and quietly. Your grandma will get nothing, and will you go into your room, do not forget to say good morning, and don't peek into every corner before you do it."
I will take great care,
said Little Red Riding Hood to her mother, and gave her hand on it.
The grandmother lived in the wood half legion of the village, and just as Little Red Riding Hood entered the wood, a wolf set her. Little Red Riding Hood did not know what wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him.
"Good day, Little Red Riding Hood,"
said the wolf. Thank you, kindly wolf,"
said Red Riding Hood in her sweetest voice.
"Whither away so early, Little Red Riding Hood?"
asked the wolf.
"I'm going to my grandmother's,"
said Little Red Riding Hood with a smile in her voice.
"And what have you got in your apron?"
asked the wolf in as kindly voice as he could muster. "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother is have to do something good to make her stronger,"
explained Little Red Riding Hood proudly.
"Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?"
"A good quarter of a league farther on in the wood. Her house stands under the tree, a large oak. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it,"
the wolf thought to himself.
"What a tender young creature. What a nice plump mouthful. She will be better to eat the old woman. It must act craftily so as to catch both."
So he walked for a short time by the side of Red Riding Hood. Then he said,
"See, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look around? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school, while everything else is out here in the wood is merry."
Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw this dancing here and through the trees, and pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother a fresh that would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall get there in good time."
So she ran from the path into the woods to look for flowers, and whenever she picked one, she felt that she saw a pretty one farther on, and she ran after it, and so she got deeper and deeper in the woods. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandma's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?"
"Little Red Riding Hood, I am bringing cake and wine. Open the door."
"Lift the hatch,"
called out the grandmother.
"I'm too weak, I can't get up." The wolf lifted a hatchet and the door swinged open without saying his went straight to the grandma's bed and just deceived her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cape, and landed himself in her bed and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, has been running around picking flowers, and when she gathered so many she could carry no more, she remembered the grandmothers and set out on the way to her.
She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself,
"Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today. And at other times I like being with grandmother so much," she called out. "Good morning."
But received no answer, so she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There laid her grandma with a coat pulled over her face and looking very strange.
"Oh, grandmother,"
She said,
"what big ears you have."
"The better to hear you with, my child."
replied the wolf.
"But grandmother, what big eyes you have," Little Red Riding Hood said with surprise in her voice.
"To better see with you, my dear."
"But grandma, what with large hands you have."
"To better to hug with you."
"Oh, grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have."
"The better to eat you with."
And suddenly had the wolf said this, when one bout he was out of the bed and swallowed up Little Red Riding Hood in one bite. When the wolf loosed his appetite, he lay down in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loud. And the huntsman just passed the house and thought to himself,
"How the old woman is snoring. I must see if she wants anything."
So he went into the room, and when he went to the bed, he saw the wolf was lying in it.
"Do I find you here, you old sinner?"
said the huntsman.
"I have long sought you."
Then just as he was going to fire he approached to his that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother and that she might still be safe, so he did not fire but looked at the pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach and the sleeping wolf. When he had mopped 2 strings, he saw Little Red Riding Hood shine, and then he made 2 strings more. The little girl stretched out crying.
"Ah, how frightened I have been. How dark it is inside the wolf."
And often that the aged grandmother came out alive also, but steadily able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood, however, quickly flinched a great stone with which that lifted the wolf's belly, and when he woke, he wanted to run away, but the stones was so heavy he collapsed at once, and he fell dead.
Then all there was delighted. The huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Little Red Riding Hood had brought and received. But Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never myself leave the path to run into the woods when my mother has forbidden me to do so."
It is also received that once was Red Riding Hood was again taking cakes to her old grandmother. Another wolf spoke to her, and he tried to entice her to the path. Little Red Riding Hood, however, was on her guard and went straight forwards on her way and said to her grandmother,
"Grandmother, I met another wolf. Wolf, he had said good morning to me, but with such a nicked look in his eye that if I had not been on the public road, I am certainly he would have eaten me up,
Well,
said the grandmother.
we will shut the door that he may not come in. Soon afterwards, the wolf knocked and cried.
Open the door, grandmother. I am Little Red Riding Hood, and am bringing you some cakes.
But they did not speak or open the door, so the gray-bearded stole twice around the door, and Flash jumped on the roof.